No music, no narration, just sound. Wind over a landscape that has no name you know. A ground that looks like it was poured, not placed. Colors that belong to no mineral you've studied. Silence that feels older than silence. Then a single line appears on screen. This was filmed on Earth. You're not sure you believe it yet. Location 1. Dallol Danakil Depression, Ethiopia. The pools here are not water, not exactly. They are solutions of sulfuric acid and brine so concentrated that no known life can survive inside them. Scientists have tested. They call it sterile by default. The ground beneath you is actively forming, growing upward, crystallizing in real time. You can watch columns of salt appear over hours. Some formations weren't here last week. The landscape is not ancient. It is being born right now, in one of the most hostile places on the planet's surface. Dallol sits directly above a magmatic intrusion, a place where volcanic heat rises close enough to the surface to superheat the groundwater beneath. As that water forces upward through mineral-rich rock, it dissolves everything: sulfur, potassium, chlorine, iron. When it reaches the surface and meets open air, it crystallizes instantly. The towers are chimneys. The pools are the open wounds of a planet that hasn't finished forming. Dallol holds the record for the highest average temperature of any permanently inhabited location on Earth, an average of 34.4 degrees Celsius year-round, with extremes above 50. And yet, for decades, a small Afar salt mining community worked in its shadow. Not on it, near it. Even the Afar who know this land as home treat Dallol itself as a place you visit, not a place you stay. But if Dallol is a planet actively forming, there is a place elsewhere on Earth where an ancient planet left its blueprint, a circle so perfect, so enormous, that for decades no one on the ground even realized they were standing inside it. Location 2. The Richat structure, Mauritania, West Africa. Early astronauts on the Apollo missions used the Richat structure, the Eye of the Sahara, as a navigation landmark. Not because it was marked on any map, because it was the most visible feature in all of North Africa from space. A structure so geometrically precise that astronauts assumed, for years, it must be a meteor impact. It wasn't. It's something stranger. A dome of ancient rock that pushed up from the Earth's interior and then, over hundreds of millions of years, collapsed inward, the rings left behind as erosion ate through each layer at different rates. The Richat structure is approximately 100 million years old, formed before the Atlantic Ocean existed, when Africa and South America were still joined. What you see isn't an impact scar. It's an eroded geological dome, a place where the planet's skin folded upward, held for an eternity, and then surrendered. The rings are simply different types of rock, each one harder or softer, each one eroding at its own rate across geological time. Some researchers have proposed, controversially, that the Richat structure could be the remnant of the city described by Plato as Atlantis. The dimensions Plato gave match. The concentric ring geography matches. The age does not, but the image of it from above, a ringed city rising from a plain, is genuinely haunting once you've seen it. Most geologists dismiss this. Almost no one can stop thinking about it. Location 3. The Danakil Depression, Ethiopia, Eritrea. The Danakil Depression exists because three tectonic plates are pulling away from each other simultaneously, right here, right now. The ground is not stable. It is actively splitting. The land is, in geological terms, becoming a sea. In a few million years, the Red Sea will flood this basin and it will be underwater. You are standing at the birth of an ocean. The lava lake at Deadvlei, which sits inside the depression, has been continuously erupting for over 100 years. There is a volcano here that has not stopped. Not once. Not for a century. The Afar Triangle is one of only two places on Earth where a mid-ocean ridge is above the waterline. Normally, the seams where plates separate are at the bottom of oceans, invisible, flooded, sealed under kilometers of water. Here, that seam is exposed, walkable. You can stand on the joint between tectonic plates and feel the ground beneath you belong to two different futures. The oldest evidence of hominid walking, the footprints of our early ancestors, was found in the Afar region. Lucy, one of the most famous fossils in human evolution, was discovered here. This place that looks most alien, most inhospitable, most unlike home, is where the oldest evidence of us walking upright was preserved in rock. The place that looks like another planet is the place we came from. If Danakil is where the Earth is breaking apart, there is a place in the Andes where the sky itself seems to break, where the atmosphere meets the ground in ways no photograph can entirely prepare you for. Location 4. Salar de Terra, Atacama, Chile. Salar de Terra is less visited than its famous neighbor, Salar de Uyuni, and the difference is immediate. There are no tourists here, no salt hotels, no phone coverage, no paths. Just the flat white, impossible surface and the volcano ring, and the flamingos feeding on organisms that have evolved to survive in near-space conditions. The brine here is so saline, so alkaline, that the organisms inside it are classified as extremophiles, the same category as life found in hydrothermal vents and Antarctic ice. They are more similar to things found on Mars than things found in your nearest river. NASA uses the Atacama region extensively for Mars analog research. The soil chemistry, the UV exposure, the lack of biological contamination, all of it approximates Martian surface conditions better than anywhere else on Earth. The organisms found in Atacama salars are studied specifically because they survive conditions that our rover instruments would consider lifeless. When we search Mars for signs of life, we are often looking for Atacama-style signatures. The flamingos at Salar de Terra are one of only 3 flamingo species in the world that breed exclusively in high-altitude Andean salars. They have evolved to live at altitude, in brine, breathing thin air, eating organisms that would kill most animals. They are, in evolutionary terms, a completely different ecological solution to survival than flamingos anywhere else. Same bird, alien context, alien adaptation. But altitude and heat are only 2 ways a landscape can break your sense of the familiar. In the frozen south, where the ice is old enough to remember a different atmosphere, something else waits, something that glows from inside. Location 5. Mendenhall Ice Caves, Juneau, Alaska. The blue light in glacial ice has been filtered. Every wavelength except blue has been absorbed by the compressed ice above. hundreds of meters of it, and what emerges is only the wavelength that can survive the depth. The older and denser the ice, the purer and deeper the blue. The walls of this cave are glowing with light that entered as white sunlight, traveled through an archive of compressed atmosphere, and arrived here having lost everything, except its oldest, coldest frequency. The ice in Mendenhall Glacier is approximately 3,000 years old. The air trapped inside these walls, the tiny bubbles sealed into the ice when it first compacted, contains the atmosphere of ancient Earth. Scientists drill glacial ice cores not just to study climate, but to literally extract and analyze air from thousands of years ago. The caves you're walking through are an archive. The walls hold breath from a world before recorded history. Mendenhall Glacier is retreating at approximately 30 meters per year, and the caves themselves are a consequence of that retreat. They exist only because warming has created space where there was once solid ice. The most beautiful part of this landscape is also evidence of its disappearance. Within decades, the specific cave formations visible today will be gone, either collapsed or exposed so fully they become something else entirely. You cannot visit them without knowing this is not permanent. You are witnessing a farewell. Ice can hold secrets for millennia, but there is a place where the oldest secret, the act of death itself, of life stripped away and preserved by sun and wind, became a monument. A forest of dead trees standing for centuries in one of the most inhospitable deserts on Earth. Location 6, Deadvlei, Namib Desert, Namibia. The trees at Deadvlei died around 1100 AD when a drought shifted the dunes and cut off the river that fed the ancient oasis. They have not rotted because the Namib Desert is too dry for decomposition. The trees are not preserved in any human sense. No intervention, no treatment. The climate simply refused to allow them to disappear. They have been standing in their death for longer than the Notre Dame Cathedral has existed. They are not ruins. They are originals. The white clay pan beneath the trees is itself ancient, a lakebed from a wetter period in Namibian prehistory. The dunes surrounding it are among the tallest in the world, some reaching 325 meters. This entire landscape is a record of climate change across centuries. The dunes represent dry periods, the clay pan represents wet ones, and the trees represent the exact moment of transition. The trees that grew during the wet period, caught by the dry one, and preserved in it forever. The distinctive orange-red color of the Sossusvlei Dunes, one of the most photographed landscapes on Earth, comes from iron oxide. The sand is slowly rusting. The iron content in the dune sand oxidizes over millennia, and the older the dune, the deeper the orange. The tallest, oldest dunes are closest to blood red. Deadvlei sits inside what is essentially a slow geological fire, and the black trees are its most perfect icons. Deadvlei is a record of extinction written in wood and clay. But there is a continent that holds something stranger still. A volcano at the bottom of the world that has been burning continuously since humans first arrived there, over a mountain of ice that the planet has kept frozen for 34 million years. Location 7, Mount Erebus, Ross Island, Antarctica. Erebus has been erupting, gently, continuously, for as long as modern science has observed it. The lava lake in its crater is one of only a handful of permanent lava lakes on the planet. The ice caves beneath and around the volcano, carved by geothermal heat, are warm enough inside to sustain ecosystems, microbes and simple organisms living in the warmth of volcanic vents, buried under Antarctic ice, in total darkness, in temperatures that would kill almost anything else. Scientists call these thermal refugia. places where life found a way to persist through an ice age by staying close to the planet's own heat. The fumarolic ice towers on Erebus's flanks are formed when volcanic gases exhale through vents in the ice-covered volcanic rock. The steam freezes on contact with Antarctic air, building towers of translucent ice around the vents, some reaching several meters tall. Inside these towers, the air is warm. Microbes have been found living inside them, a warm, life-sustaining column of gas wrapped in a tower of frozen water on a continent that is otherwise inert. It is the most alien ecosystem on Earth, and it exists because of the contradiction at its core. Erebus regularly ejects lava bombs, solidified chunks of lava thrown from the active crater, and many of these contain crystals of anorthoclase feldspar that are up to 10 centimeters long. These crystals are called Erebus crystals, and they form in conditions so specific, a particular temperature range, a particular slow cooling, that they're scientifically distinctive. Chunks of this mountain regularly fly into the air and land on ice. The volcano is littered with its own jewelry. Erebus burns at the bottom of the world because the planet's own heat refuses to be contained. But heat is not the only force that creates the impossible. In Tanzania, a lake exists that does something no other body of water on Earth does. It turns the things that enter it into statues. Location 8. Lake Natron, Tanzania. The lake that calcifies the living. Lake Natron's water has a pH between 9 and 10.5, and a temperature that can reach 60 degrees Celsius. When animals enter it, birds, bats, any creature that misjudges the shoreline, the sodium carbonate in the water begins to calcify their tissue. Photographer Nick Brandt documented this phenomenon. Animals preserved in perfect posture by the lake's chemistry, as though frozen in their last moment. A cormorant, a swallow, an eagle, each one sealed by mineral water into a permanent form that somehow looks more alive in death than it could in life. Despite its apparent lethality, Lake Natron is one of the most important flamingo breeding grounds in East Africa, and nearly all lesser flamingos in the world are born here. The same alkalinity that kills other animals protects flamingo nests from predators. The lake's hostility is the flamingo's security. They nest on small soda islands formed by evaporation, and their chicks walk across the caustic shallows to reach open water. They survive because they've evolved to read the lake, to know where the water kills and where it protects. The old Doinyo Lengai volcano, which looms directly over Lake Natron, is the only active volcano in the world that erupts carbonatite lava. Unlike ordinary silica-based lava, which glows bright orange-red, carbonatite lava is dark gray and erupts at temperatures around 500 degrees Celsius, less than half the temperature of normal lava. It looks at night like cold black water flowing down a hillside. In daylight, it looks like ash. And when it weathers, it dissolves into sodium carbonate, which flows down into Lake Natron and feeds its chemistry. The volcano makes the lake makes the statues. Lake Natron preserves things in their final form, but there is one last place, perhaps the most remote, the most unchanged, the most genuinely disconnected from everything you know, where the question isn't what preserved it, but what Earth was protecting it from. Location 9, Socotra Island, Yemen, Arabian Sea. Socotra separated from the Arabian Peninsula approximately 18 million years ago. In that time, its plants and animals evolved in isolation, and 37% of its plant species exist nowhere else on Earth. The dragon blood tree, the umbrella-shaped tree, bleeds red sap when cut. The sap has been traded since antiquity, used as medicine, dye, varnish. Alexander the Great reportedly captured the island specifically to control the dragon blood tree's resin. And yet, if you walked onto Socotra without context, you would not recognize a single plant. You would assume you had arrived somewhere else entirely. The dragon blood tree's flat-topped canopy is an evolutionary response to Socotra's extreme dry season. The umbrella shape minimizes direct sun exposure on the trunk while maximizing the canopy's ability to intercept moisture from mist and cloud. The tree literally collects water from fog. In a place with almost no rain, these trees create their own precipitation system, and the moisture they generate supports the soil organisms that allow them to grow. They are an ecosystem of one, sustaining themselves through architecture. The Socotri language, spoken by approximately 70,000 people on the island, has no known relatives and no written form. It exists only in speech, passed down through generations, on an island that is itself a kind of living archive. The people of Socotra evolved culturally in parallel with the island's biology, a language isolated as thoroughly as the dragon blood tree, carrying knowledge and history that exists nowhere else on Earth. When we say Socotra is alien, we mean it is something Earth made and then sealed away, and kept safe from the rest of us, until recently. Maybe Earth isn't what you think it is. We spend our lives on this planet under the assumption that we know it. We see it in photographs. We study it in schools. We have named every mountain range, every ocean trench, every continent. The maps are finished. But a map is not a place. A name is not an understanding. The places you've seen in this film are not exceptions. They are not accidents, geological footnotes, or tourist curiosities. They are Earth operating at its full range, the full scale of what a living, geologically active, biologically inventive planet is capable of producing when given enough time, enough pressure, enough isolation, enough heat. What makes them feel alien is not that they are strange, it's that we are. We evolved in East African grassland. We normalized green hills, temperate rivers, blue sky at sea level. We built our sense of the real around a single, narrow band of Earth's total expression. And then we looked at the rest of the planet and called it impossible. Dallol is not alien. We are the newcomers. The Richat structure was here before our species had a name. Lake Natron was calcifying creatures before we were bipedal. Socotra was protecting its dragon blood trees for 18 million years before anyone built a ship capable of reaching it. The planet is older than our astonishment. It was doing this long before we arrived to be astonished by it. And it will continue. The lava lake at Erebus burning, the flamingos of Natron nesting on their caustic islands, the trees of Socotra drinking from clouds, long after we're gone. Maybe the question isn't whether Earth looks like another planet. Maybe the question is whether we've ever really looked at this one. Earth has never been ordinary. We just stopped paying attention.